Hello, friends. Welcome, Sailor Happy Home. I'm happy to be here with you today. It's Thursday, May 28th. Next week is already June, halfway through the year. It's been really stifling hot here, like debilitating hot, like in the 90s and stuff here. It's very humid. But, now we're in the summertime. Douglas had his last day. School is out now for the summer because he is an honorable school bus driver. And, it is a thankless profession for sure. But that's not what I want to talk to you about. What I want to talk to you about is yesterday in the news, the personal assistant of Matthew Perry, the actor from Friends who died of the drug overdose, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for their role in his death. Now, we also know that in the past, Michael Jackson's doctor was also convicted of his role in the death of Michael Jackson because of him allowing Michael Jackson to have surgical anesthesia by IV and at his bedside for himself, Michael Jackson alone, and unsupervised to be giving himself so he could sleep because he had chronic insomnia. And Matthew Perry was he was an addict, struggling with addiction and mental health, and he was allowed to be able to do whatever he wants. Now these are, of course, grown-ass adults. And Prince, sadly, Prince died from what they believe was an accidental overdose. They believe that he may have taken some fentanyl and didn't remember taking it or recall how long he had before he had taken it again. And in his altered mental state from the drugs that he was on, he accidentally took some more. So they're not sure if it was accidental or not. But the point being is, where do we draw the line when you are the doctor of, the personal assistant of, the friend of, the spouse of these incredibly famous, powerful, rich people? Where do we draw the line? Well, now enter last week and the sudden, unnecessary, and tragic death of world famous NASCAR driver Kyle Busch, 41 years old. I will not be surprised if someone doesn't go down for his death too, because they knew days before he got into that car that he had bacterial pneumonia, bad enough that the doctors believed he needed to be hospitalized. But being a rich, famous, powerful race car driver, and you have to have quite an ego to do that. That's not to say ego is bad or that he was a bad person. But when you put your career ahead of your life-threatening illness, you got to kind of look at the priorities there. Now, he probably refused the care and the hospitalization because of the big race coming up. And of course, when you are under pressure by contracts and sponsors that you have to be out there, those sponsors and those contractors and stuff, they don't care if you live or die. They care that you perform for them like a circus monkey. And when you are so pressured that you feel you need to risk your life to fulfill that contract so you don't get fired, you don't get sued, we live in an upside down world. Did Kyle Busch absolutely refuse because he was contracted and required to be at that race? What was his reason? Now, when he refused the proper, correct medical care, they gave him an injection and hoped to God he was going to survive. And then after the race, he would rest and recuperate. But he didn't make it. Bacterial pneumonia is fatal. It is deadly. Pneumonia in general is deadly. People that have cancer really don't die from the cancer. They die from pneumonia. That's the number one cause, or organ failure. It's not, it is not something to trifle with. And those doctors knew. Now, they couldn't, under our Constitution here in the United States and the way that we are with Americans who are of consenting age, we can't physically force that person to hospitalize themselves or to cooperate. I get that doctors don't have to do that. But the doctors knew. And what should have happened is it should have been reported. These are doctors that are specific to NASCAR. We're not talking about, the intern at the urgent care down the road. We're talking the actual private medical practices connected to NASCAR and other high-profile athletic, venues and whatnot, and teams and such. These are private physicians and stuff, and it should have been reported. And somebody allowed him to go out with bacterial pneumonia into a deadly situation with nothing but an injection, and hoped for the best. So that doctor's probably going to be really, really interrogated. He's going to be grilled like a steak, and he may actually have his license put in question. Can the family sue NASCAR for the pressure if they put him under pressure? Was he being threatened? We will never know now. But what we do know is that he defied medical orders because he thought that he could lick it. He thought that by ignoring bacterial pneumonia, it would go away. What it did is within hours manifested into sepsis. And he was dying, and he died. He should have never been in that car. It's unfortunate. Now, if he had been in a car crash and he busted up all of his bones and he was in casts from head to toe, or he was on life support in the hospital, obviously he wouldn't be able to drive either. So that they have replacement drivers. They have secondary drivers, like what do they call them, stand-ins or something for actors and things. They have other people that could have driven for that sponsor. And when money is on the line, it seems like preservation of life goes way down the priority list. So I'm going to be listening to this story for a while because I think that somebody's going to be held accountable. If it's Kyle Busch, then that is a warning for all super athletes that your money and your contracts don't come before your health and welfare. And there should be caveats in these contracts for these super athletes that your health and welfare. I mean, look at what happens if they're on a basketball court and a famous basketball player sprains a pinky or twists a toe. They're out for the rest of the season. They're carried off the court, and they're, cared for and pampered like they're royalty to get them back up. Why not with NASCAR? What is different with NASCAR that makes putting your life on the line for them the priority? Kyle Busch should not be dead today. Kyle Busch did not have to die last week. He is a 41-year-old man with a wife and 2 young kids at home. Now he's a tribute and a memory, instead of a man growing old with his wife, retiring from NASCAR, and living a beautiful life because he made a choice. But who influenced that choice, and why did he choose to make it? And that's what the coming weeks and months will start to question and look into. He is now yet another one of the infamous fallen because somebody else made a bad choice. And now the world has lost a beloved celebrity, a beloved athlete, 2 young children have lost their father for the rest of their lives. His daughter's like 4, 3 or 4. His young wife has lost her husband that she should have spent, 40, maybe even 50 more years with. This is bullshit. And these contracts for these super athletes need to be scrutinized. They need to be revamped. And these people need to be held accountable when they pressure somebody with money, when greed takes precedent over life. We got a huge problem in our sports world, in our industries, our athletic industries today. This needs to stop before anybody else senselessly and needlessly loses their life. And we're not talking about just the sniffles. He had bacterial pneumonia. That is deadly. Did his doctors tell him, if you walk out this door, you will die? Did they report to his boss? I'm putting in the report that he, against medical advice. We got to stop taking that so lightly. If he was mentally ill and needed to be committed, he wouldn't get a choice. If he was a minor, a child, he wouldn't have had a choice. This is all coming down to civil rights and these choices that we make as free will Americans. We have the right to do good and do right, or we have the right to risk our lives. But at what cost? When do those lines get crossed? So I'm interested in finding out how this is going to play out. And I found it ironic that, Kyle Busch dies tragically last week, and this week, Matthew Perry's assistant is sentenced to 3 years in prison for their role or lack of role in helping him, or, I saw the video, I think it was Midwest Safety did the video of Justin Timberlake's most recent drunk driving investigation, where he was pulled off the side of the road and he was driving, and there were people in the car who were stone cold sober. There was a friend of his in another car who was stone cold sober who stopped as well. And these people still let him drive, knowing that he was drunk, knowing that he could kill them. They had no regard for their own lives or his life, or the fact that he has a young wife and young children at home. No regard whatsoever. Just giving a spoiled, entitled rich guy his way. How ignorant do you have to be? How greedy do you have to be? How much of an ass kisser do you have to be? Now he's in real serious trouble. And was he drunk? Oh my friggin' God. People who seek fame are usually not all that wound tight. Not a lot of sane people in that field. Britney Spears, another one. Mental health issues. She should have never been allowed to be a celebrity unless she was vetted first, because look at the messes that she's in. Justin Timberlake, damn near falling over on himself in that video when he was picked up the last time. Could have killed everybody in that car, and God knows who else if he'd have hit another car. And yet all of his friends are doing is trying to protect him, trying to intervene with the police, trying to negotiate with the police, trying to use his status with the police. And these deaths, he could have been one of those deaths that could have been prevented because the bootlickers that are employed by these super celebrities and these promoters and whatnot are so fucking greedy that they're putting their money and their status ahead of the life and limb of a human being and other human beings that they may harm along the way. I get civil rights, civil liberties. I get that these people made choices. Yes, they did. Kyle Busch is in that basket now. He made a deadly choice, and he paid the ultimate price. There is nothing honorable about what he did, getting in that car. It was the wrong decision, and now he's dead. And we all have to grapple with that. But the deeper story is all of these people behind the fame and fortune, these assistants, these doctors, these physical therapists, these producers, promoters, handlers. You're being paid for discretion, you're being paid for security, you're being paid for your medical prowess, but you should also be required to put the safety of them and everyone else that they come in contact with ahead of all of the other stuff. This all needs to be talked about. Open dialogues and conversations about this, the seriousness of this. Because here in America, we really, really, really do love our celebrities. We really, really love our celebrities, our athletes and our singers and our actors. And we don't want harm to come to them. But when they're not the best people emotionally, when they make bad decisions, if you are on their payroll, you have an obligation to keep them safe. And a temper tantrum from a celebrity is not an excuse to not do the right thing. Take the keys from Timberlake. Hospitalize Kyle Busch and take the keys from him, or whatever they do. Leaving Prince alone. Shouldn't have done that. They should have been able to see. Because you don't have to be an expert to see someone's high as a kite or drunk as a skunk. You know as a human being. So I blame all of the people behind the scenes for these deaths. And obviously, our judicial system feels the same way because people are going to jail. Michael Jackson's doctor, Matthew Perry's assistant, and now I know somebody will go down for Kyle Busch. It's not worth it. Your life isn't worth it. So where are we going to draw the line? When are we going to start having a real conversation about these people and their abhorrent behavior and trying to enable these people? Just because they're famous, they have money, they have power, you think that gives them the right to put their lives and everybody else's on the line? Well, their own, well, I guess they can, that's a choice they make. But those choices can cost innocent people their lives too. So it's time that we have a different conversation. It's time that we step aside and realize that civil liberties aside, if someone is going to do something that's going to put their lives or others on the line, we need to step in. And I hope that these examples, Michael Jackson's doctor, Matthew Perry's assistant, and whoever is going to go down for Kyle Busch's death, will be examples to all of the publicists, the handlers, the assistants, the doctors, the PTs, the whatever you are on contract with these famous people for, that you will step back and realize that you need to make it clear to this celebrity that if they do something to put their lives or other people in danger, that you will step in. Put it in your contract. Make it very clear to them that you won't tolerate tantrums, that you won't tolerate them driving drunk or doing deadly things, making stupid, deadly choices. And maybe if you stop acting like weak little sheep and more like the protector and the guardian and the guide that you are supposed to be, maybe we'll have less and less of these needless celebrity deaths. And until next time, do good and be good.